You know, as I wait for this to roll in, I always give it a second to just kind of do the wheel. I believe I said it would be unsurprising if Lamar Jackson put up 30 points on us. I said that on Friday, and I'll be damned if they didn't put up 37 on us, and he was responsible for 30 of them. Ravens beat the Seahawks 37-3, but I don't think that tells the whole story. We got 2 turnovers on that team, and I don't know how many sacks we got. I know that they almost ran for 300 on us, and if it wasn't for them taking the kneel downs at the end of the game with their backup quarterback, they would have had 300 yards rushing on us. As a fan of running the ball, that was the thing of beauty. And then, you know how I love the use of footwork and the use of gap control, and and also just like this idea that an offensive line needs to attack a defense to create chaos and to be, the badasses and be those dogs. The Ravens showed up and they were like, we're going to be those dogs, right? And I think I said, like, this is Baltimore. Lynch showed us a little bit of Oakland. Let's see, we got a little Oakland in us. And on offense, we don't got any Oakland in us. We don't got any Oakland in us. We didn't hit them a little bit. And when we did, a flag was thrown. And the refs wouldn't throw any... they wouldn't really explain it. They'd say it was a holding, which, they kind of just call holding whenever they feel like it. And then they don't call holding on other things. And it kind of feels like whenever they call holding, it's at key moments. I understand that there's penalties, and they'll call penalties to kind of make it feel like the penalty box score is balanced. But the context of when penalties are called can be so killer, right? Because you'll be like, well, one team had 6 penalties and the other team has 4 penalties. Yeah, but those 4 penalties are like 10-yard penalties that happened when they had an explosive. And so now instead of it being, in this case, 2nd and 2, and we just ran for like 15 yards, Kenneth Walker off of the left side. And we need this drive to work so that we have an opportunity to try to get back in this game. Suddenly, a penalty is thrown for holding that they don't even show us. They don't even call out who it is, I think. Or maybe I was just so worked up. But suddenly it's 2nd and 12. And then the play calling that happens after is, well, you can't really go with the normal rushing, I guess, but we don't really have the gonads to just, truck and use all that open space because we haven't established the run earlier in the game that we're willing. And when you look at the Ravens defense the entire game, they're jacked up and ready to go because we haven't been slugging them at all that entire game. They've been kicking our asses, just kicking our asses. And you'll see people on social media and probably on the streets, if anyone has the the willpower to even talk about it. Definitely, like, I'm sure Hawkblogger right now is just having the time of his life. I'm sure Brian is a happy peach, and I would bet, I'm not even gonna check, but I'll watch later, right? Go check. Don't watch my stuff. Go watch Hawkblogger and company because all of his stuff. If you donate to Hawkblogger, his donations go to charity for autism. So Ben's Fund, I think. So just quit watching my stuff. Go watch Hawkblogger. Donate. He's great. But he's probably really, really pissed off for the right reasons. We just got our asses handed to us on offense the entire time. As Goku said, I'm gonna beat you up. And if the Ravens were Goku, he beat us the fuck up. And it was because we did not have, I think, we didn't seem to really have a plan that would make us be the bully. If you remember what I said earlier this week, and if you weren't here, it was we need to have sound gap control, and we need to count our numbers, and we need to focus on the timing of our steps at the quarterback position, and we need to get these single gap targets for our running backs, and we need to run the heck out of the ball. Don't waste any space, and I want Walker exhausted from accelerating into the gap, because this Ravens team was going to come at us. And what we saw later in this game, because this team was coming at us so much, is what you often saw was that they were, especially in shotgun, and then we were playing like a deep pistol. I don't know the step count, because at that point I wasn't even bothering, because the plays were coming so fast. We were turning the ball over so quickly with our 3 and outs. There was like, wait, what just happened? I missed it. But you would see that the offensive line was kicking, and remember kick step, right? Or you kick back and then you align into the guy who's trying to rush you. They were kicking as deep as they could. And then Geno was trying to get as far back from this incoming rush as possible. And it was because this rush was just overwhelming them right off of the bat. And it's to create space, right? So that he has time to set his feet, and so that the receivers have time to get down the field. And the problem with that is that you're not enabling the offense to attack. You're the offensive line. That's the offense. You're not enabling them to be in a position to do anything at all. And I didn't see any of those tight formations. Actually, I did. I did see some tight formations where you had Disley and Fant in the backfield blocking, and Fant kept whiffing. I saw some communication issues where they were colliding with each other. I saw Trey and Witherspoon collide into each other in the backfield. I think I saw Lockett and maybe Parkinson collide with each other in the backfield. There were some communication issues, and I in the skill positions, not on the offensive line that I could see, but in the skill positions, the offensive line was, dealing with a lot, obviously, but the skill positions were bumping and colliding all over with each other. I don't know what's going on with the skill positions, so maybe I need to think about that a little bit more as far as what was going on with Geno, because there was this complaint that the skill positions, Lockett and DK and others, have been out of rhythm with him. And I have argued, as I said in the halftime, that that's Geno's fault, because it can't possibly be all of the skill position players that are out of rhythm. Sure, DK gets 14 targets and only makes 5, but then also you see that, they're having trouble with Lockett this year as well, and that JSN has been having a bad start to his career, and that the tight ends have not been utilized. So all of the skill positions having problems at the start of this year. That can't be them. It has to be the quarterback, in my mind. But then also, if they're having problems in the backfield and they're bumping into each other and all this other stuff, maybe it is the skill positions. Maybe that's not on the quarterback and I'm being too harsh. So that's coaching. Are they being asked to do too much this year? Because last year it was a fairly simple playbook, right? We need to get the ball to our tight ends. we don't necessarily know what we got in Geno and Drew, so we're gonna have them battle it out. And we got these rookies, and we don't want to. But now we're gonna open the playbook up, right? And hey, we got this nice, cool weapon that we can put in the slot. Are they trying to do too much in the offensive playbook? And guys are like, wait, what's going on with this? What's going on with that? Do they need to throw out a bunch of these, do they just need to not simplify, right? But be like, we need to stick to this formation, and we're going to work out of this formation for a bit during this play, during this drive or this game, and we're going to get really, really good at this. The LOB, for instance, famous for cover 3. And we're like, we're going to be really, really fucking good at just this. And we're going to master this. And you can't beat us at this. And what happens is when you start trying to do too many things, you're not good at any of them. What's that? Is it Bruce Lee that said, I fear not the man who mastered 1,000 punches. I fear the man that mastered one punch 1,000 times, or something like that. I don't know. It's something. I probably definitely messed it up. You throw one punch perfectly 1,000 times, so that the next time that you fight somebody, you know that you can throw that punch perfectly. But then you find somebody else and they've watched 1,000 YouTube videos and they've tried it once, right? I'm not afraid of that person because they just know how to do 1,000 different things. But then there's the person who knows how to throw a really fucking good punch. Yeah, you're afraid of that person. So we have an offense that can probably do a lot of things because, yeah, we got DK that can do a bunch of awesome stuff. And we got Lockett, who's been around forever. And we got all these cool cool stuff with the tight ends. But we don't have any, like with Lamar, it's pretty obvious what their identity is. Lamar Jackson running RPOs to a bunch of running backs and throwing to his tight end, which opens up huge throwing lanes to his wide receivers. The Chiefs, it's Patrick Mahomes yeeting the ball to Kelsey, which creates these nice slot opportunities and seam opportunities to his underneath, wide receivers. And so he's just firing the ball around and stepping around the old classic AFL Chiefs style, but he's just really, really good at it. Plus now there's such a thing as tight ends that catch the ball. And so it's just amazing, right? Tom Brady, we're going to find the specific guy on your team that sucks, and we're going to put our thumb in it and thumb you to death. And there's nothing you can do about it, no matter what formation you have, because we know you're injured there. Peyton Manning, I know your playbook, so I'm just going to follow the progression of the play, and I'm going to count it to death. And then whichever one has the numerical value, I'm putting the ball there. Everyone has their identity. You know exactly who they are and how they're going to function. And it's kind of cool to see on game day how they're going to function when they show up. And you kind of know what to expect. How are we going to beat them? When the Seahawks show up, it used to be we have Marshawn Lynch and stuff, and we have the moon ball of Russell Wilson, and last year it was we got Geno Smith throwing to the tight ends, and DK Metcalf and Tyler Lockett catching these great posts and curls on the outside. But what is it now? It seems to be running backs not being able to see their gaps, our wide receivers having the ball thrown at their feet and being out of rhythm, And where are the tight ends? Also, Geno, here's actually an encapsulation of what our offense currently is. And I'm sorry to the Seattle Overload bros, who you should also follow and subscribe to because they're amazing. Their thing is no free publicity. I'm giving you free publicity, boys. I'm giving you some free publicity. Seattle Overload boys. Geno Smith and the Seattle offense can best be described as, well, that should have been a pick six every week. They're averaging that should have been a pick six once every single week. It's like we're one step away from being Matt Schaub and the Houston Texans in 2012. Remember in 2012 when they had a great defense with J.J. Watt and all that other great talent around them? I'm assuming they probably just had J.J. Watt and Julian and Arian Foster and probably some other talent that I can't think of right now. But Matt Schaub, he just kept almost throwing or actually throwing pick sixes, and it kept losing them games, and their fans were going crazy because, like, you know, they were wearing Letterman jackets going into New England because that's how confident they were that they were going to go to the AFC Championship that year. And what happened is Richard Sherman caught a pick six, and his shoe fell off while he was doing it. And my dog is whining because he remembers, even though he wasn't born. And what happened, either that game or the game after, is Matt Schaub was benched basically forever. I think he played for like the Jets for a bit. But people were like burning his jerseys, and the Texans burned him out of town. And Seattle is too nice for that type of attitude, thankfully. I appreciate that the Seahawks fans are a lot more mature than Texans fans. And Geno Smith definitely deserves that. But if those picks that were landing literally in the palms of these DBs that would have had free range, like Buda Baker, only needing DK to catch him, if they were actually getting caught instead of having them dropped, the conversation should be flipped. And it's not being flipped right now. And he threw a pick today. It was also his fault. He should have thrown two, and that one most likely would have been a pick six, just like the one in Cleveland probably would have been a pick six. Just like the one earlier in the year in the game I can't recall should have probably been at least a good like 20, 30 yards. He's thrown a few of them, and he was doing it last year, and they kept getting dropped until later in the season. And that's part of the thing where I'm not blaming Geno necessarily, but what I'm saying is he's not the type of quarterback that's he's going to make these mistakes, and you have to make note of it. And by making note of it, how do you correct these mistakes? You need to run the ball with the right philosophy. And the right philosophy right now is, what identity do you want for your team? And your team right now is, well, we're going to put the ball in Geno's hands and he's going to flail it all over and spread the ball around. Well, if we're spreading the ball around and that's what our identity is, we have become the man that knows 1,000 punches and isn't good at any of them. I want to be really, really good at throwing a certain various type of punches. And it doesn't seem like we're good at any of them. So let's figure out what we're good at. We keep throwing those JSN short screens. Maybe there's something to that. Maybe we can treat those as like those little 3-yard gainers if they really want. I don't know why we can't just dedicate ourselves to some, inside zones. And sure, he was getting stuffed, but then he would have some success, and then there would be a penalty. We had a nice, outside handoff, outside zone to the left side, and he broke it for like 11 yards or something, and on a 2nd and 2, which is great, right? You want to run on 2nd and 2, and we get a penalty. It still drives me nuts. But you look at the Ravens, and you're like, why would you run the ball? The Ravens, as I keep saying, 3 yards in the cloud of dust. Then they make one man miss because our defense is getting tired. Your arms are weaker than your legs. Your legs are trunks. The more effort by pushing and lifting and swiping and everything, the more tired your arms are going to get. So the more backs you have, the more stable backs, the more legs you have to push, meaning the more tips of the spear you have, the sharper your spear can be, the more times you can strike. And by the end of that game, because our offense especially couldn't do anything, we were missing tackles. And that's when the game got out of control. That's why I think that the score doesn't tell the story. If people criticize our defense this game, they are incorrect. Our defense balled out. They were warriors. They got 2 turnovers at least that I saw. If there's a third, I missed it. I know there was the one on Lamar, and then there was the one on Beckham. And it wasn't till the second half when our offense was just completely bailing that and that our defense is obviously just exhausted. They argue, the anti-running people, they say defenses don't get tired. Look at the tape. Guys have had rubber legs. If you think their legs are rubber, think about their arms. All those missed tackles. There was a reason that Huntley and crew were able to come in and just bulldoze over. It was not a willpower thing. We had our starters in there. You can't say they choked or anything like that. That was not the case. You had a bunch of fresh legs come in there. They were like, yeah, we're gonna go in. I'm ready to go. And they were ready to go, right? You got fresh legs. Fresh legs are ready to tear through arms that are noodles because they have been getting dragged and pushed around all day by a bunch of bullies. And back in the day, we were the bullies. It's an attitude thing, and it's an attitude thing in the fan base too. I don't know when it was that we talk about the fans in the stands, and that's a whole nother thing. Part of that is we're not thirsty the same way that we were once you win it all. I think a lot of people are like, yeah, we got it. Yeah, right. And then the true competitors are always thirsty, but most people aren't like that. So that's a different thing. I think the fans they see highlights. And they want highlights every snap, but they don't understand that highlights are accidents. Highlights are happy accidents. For example, you watched that Chiefs-London's game today with the lateral? That was a happy accident. Some of the best plays in football are happy accidents. Where, earlier this year, where DK, he's working super, super hard, and in the end zone, and he makes he does not a fade, but he fakes a step. It's like something he learned from Lockett, where he learns to like a shadow step or whatever it's called, in the corner, and by doing so, it left the corner going in one direction while he stayed in the pocket, right? And that left him open in the corner is something he learned from Lockett. And That's super awesome footwork, right? DK Metcalf. It's not really one of the highlights that people are gonna be excited about. Instead, the highlight that people are really excited about is the penalties that DK gets. Excited in the bad way, in the poor way, right? And it's because they're not taking the time to really get jazzed about the little intricacies, because that's not really what they care about. So I'm hoping that that just the fan base can get back to this attitude that used to be around when the highlights used to be, look, he just ran that guy over and hit him really hard. Because now the highlights, it's a perception thing, right? I'm not trying to shit on the fans or anything. It's a perception thing where the highlights used to be, he just obliterated that man. But now, because it's trying to become a safer league and stuff, the highlights now are, look, he just finessed that man. Look, it's Reek just got this huge catch way down the field and stuff, which is the most boring play. I'm sorry, but a 60-yard bomb down the field in a post play where he clearly beat the man within the first 3 yards and he's just wide open. It's the most boring play in football. It's not a highlight to me. And then every year they're the best plays in football, and it's these deep shot plays where the guy's wide open, the safety never had a chance to ever reach him to begin with. And I'm why did you choose that play? There's all these really, really awesome offensive line plays, or even just passing plays that are really intricate, that involve a hook or something that opens up a lane, and then they choose just the easiest play in football, just a vertical. I can no, what are you doing? But people like highlights, and people like yards, and that's what you get, I guess. I had some thoughts throughout this game, and I suppose I can share some of them. Tony Romo described the Ravens today in a way that I would describe them, in a way that Goku would describe them. They just beat people up. They just beat people up. That's what the Seahawks are supposed to do. We're just supposed to beat people up. And the other thing is that they beat people up in a logical way. Very gap sound. They focus on their footwork, as I talked about at the halftime stream. Lamar Jackson, he doesn't just do 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 straight back, vertical. He stops on the 4th step, and then he goes horizontal on the 5th step. Classic AFL Chiefs, right? Just amazing elite quarterbacking, where somebody like Geno, who's a normal quarterback, he can do it, but you typically don't see it. He'll go 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 straight back. And Lamar does do it, but in certain situations, when you go horizontal in your step patterns, it creates passing lanes that allows you to pass to Andrews, who kicks your ass. So, or it even creates an extra step pause for linebackers and safeties in play action, which then can create an opportunity for you to run if you so choose, or do a pump fake. So yeah, he kicked our ass, and the scheme specifically kicked our ass in just a logical way. It was very methodical. Boom, boom, boom. And then just, as I say, if the length of the spear, because the offensive line that they had was opening up, the tip of the spear is the ball carrier once you reach the point. And then they were making guys miss or creating opportunities for themselves. So yeah, the Ravens were beating us in a logical way, which I can't be too mad about. It's a good learning opportunity for our guys and our for Clint Hurt. But you see some teams and they get their asses kicked, and it's just obvious that they suck. Our defense balled out. And the Ravens had to earn a lot of that. They're still a really good team. And by about like the third quarter, we were gassed, and then they started just thromping us, which I would blame on the offense for not. For example, they put 14 on us, and then we held them to 3 field goals. And I'm pretty sure because of like the interceptions and because we fumbled, and then there was like an interception or something. Some of that was us having Lamar and the Ravens starting practically in the red zone, and we held them off. So we held them to a field goal, and they were rewarded with like all that and 2 turnovers with 3 and outs. Like quick 3 and outs, like really rapid 3 and outs by our offense. And so they were just gassed. So this loss has nothing to do with our defense, to be clear. Odell did kind of work Woolen today a few times, footwork wise. Specifically, I think Woolen has had this problem since his rookie year where he takes things really wide. He takes really, really wide steps. I talk a lot about footwork, and you need to step close to people. And he's gotten away with it with his speed, where when he's so wide, he can diagnose where the ball is and then cut in really fast and catch it. But with somebody like Beckham, he can get himself in position and then cut back to where the ball is. And he was just kind of doing that a couple times. He did that on like a slant, and then I think he did that. It didn't go anywhere. It ended up being a punt. But he did that, or a field goal. But he did that on like on a curl. Like Woolen covered it like super, super deep. He was like nowhere even close to where Beckham was, and it was a few times where Woolen was probably 2 or 3 yards off of Beckham, like every time that he caught the ball. And it was again, it's because instead of taking a very angular route following Beckham, like the very sharp routes, it was taking banana shaped routes. And it's like I joked about it yesterday. Imagine a linebacker that says, I'm not going to run directly at the ball carrier. I'm going to bounce it. I'm not going to run to the A gap where I know that Walker is going to run to. I'm going to bounce it. And if you know that football is timing based, which we know, and the quarterback is going to hit the 3rd step, the 5th step, and the 7th step. So Woolen should know what this route is, or should assume what the route patterns are, and should be like, okay, at this point of the route tree, the quarterback is going to be at the 3rd step, and here are the possible route tree combinations, and what are the hips and the body language of Odell, and then also what does that mean off of the tape I've studied of him. Okay, we're at the 3rd step, we're at the 5th step, we're at the 7th step of the quarterback. And then he needs to respond and actually do it sharply and quickly and accurately. The accurately part, that's a grain of salt. But I think what's happening is he's because it's been happening all year. He's relied so much on his athleticism that the tape that has been on him and his athleticism is not, and all of that, it's starting to catch up with him. And so some teams are able to create specific plays to beat him. There's specific ways to beat him because they know that he can waste those extra steps because he's bouncing. If you know, I'm not going to hit this A gap specifically, I know that I can reach the A gap in 5 steps if I go from point A to point B in a direct line. But instead, I'm going to go in a banana shape, and that's going to make it 7 steps. That's going to take longer, which is going to give the advantage to the skill player. And so if he's covering Odell, and let's say he's at the 3rd step, and Odell's going to run a slant, and he starts to banana cover by covering over the top. I'm calling it banana coverage over the top while he's doing man. Instead of covering directly on the pocket, in his hip, if he's bananing over the top, he's adding extra steps on top of him. So he's not following the exact number of steps that Odell is taking. He's making it so that he needs to do extra work. And then when Odell does catch that ball, he's already behind him in steps. You know how when you watch sprinters like Usain Bolt, they're doing the sprint and it's in a curve. When you're running a slant and the guy is inside of you, the sprinter on the inside curve always starts in the farthest on the back, because he has the inside advantage, because it's the smallest length to run. So he needs to start farthest in the back, so because he needs to, he has a shorter distance in diameter. So if he's in front of you if he's in front of Woolen while they're running the route, and Woolen decides by running the route not in an angular, way, right in the pocket, but in a banana shape, by keeping it rounded, right? He's trying to bounce it like Walker would bounce it, right? He's not going for the gap, the pocket, the hip. He's bouncing it. He's going around. Then he has to take extra steps after Odell catches the ball to pursue up, because Odell's going to have another advantage after he catches the ball. It is also true that if you go angular directly at him, that when Odell catches the ball, he's going to go directly upfield and you're going to be behind him. So there is a specifically, you can't go at the back pocket. You need to go at the front pocket, because you need to hit in front where the ball is going to be caught, because as Odell turns upfield, assuming he catches the ball, you need to hit in front where the ball is going to be. So that also goes to anticipation. But you still can't banana it. You need to go direct. You see Adams and Witherspoon and even Sherman and the rest. It would be a direct line. You need to do a bullet directly to where you need to be. And he is so fast, he cannot be wasting his steps. And on that last touchdown, you saw he was doing he was so rounded. He wasted so many steps. And then you look at Odell, and it's just like boink, 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 like a cone drill. And it was a thing of beauty. And you look at Woolen, and it's like no polygons have been generated. Just 0 polygons have been generated for this individual. And maybe he'll get better. Maybe this is why he couldn't make it as a wide receiver. He couldn't pass the cone test. That's my only real critique of Woolen, is that he needs to pass the cone test, because the rounding, it's gonna kill him. It's gonna kill him. Could be it's what's gonna keep him from being an All-Pro. Oh my goodness. Let's see. The missed tackles from the aggressive running. Oh, there's this pass to DK Metcalf at the end zone. It was when we thought it was still 3 to 30. There was hope. There was 15 minutes left in the fourth quarter. So technically we still had a chance to win this game. We needed a turnover. Everything needed to go right. And Geno had somehow made it down the field. And he throws the ball to DK. And they didn't call it. But DK's left arm, corner behind him, or the safety, was holding his left arm, like completely like a child holding on to their pop's left arm, like, Daddy, I don't want you to have it anymore. Please don't leave me. And so, like, he had one hand trying to get up there, but he couldn't even jump if he wanted to attempt to get this ball. And so the guy in front of him, was there, but it just seemed, at the very least, there should have been a defensive holding penalty called, which would have moved us up to the line of scrimmage, and we should have scored it. Who knows what would have happened? Maybe it would have been a Super Bowl 49 interception the way Geno was playing. But, that, it drove me nuts. He wouldn't have, he wasn't able to jump. He wasn't able to turn. He had like one hand in the air while he like one back here. So he was like this. He couldn't even turn to face where the ball was. This whole game was iffy. It was a fun game to watch. Our O-line, I talk about how I don't like pass blocking, because the way that pass blocking in the modern day is designed is to get back and then kind of step into somebody, to give yourself just a hair of a second and then kind of get them out of the way, to waste the 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, and then by the 7th second, the play should be over. So, and it's a very passive way of playing the game. So then when you go up against a really dynamic Ravens team like this, they're going to kick your butt. I'm going to beat you up. And that's what they did. They beat us up. And so I don't like the mental philosophy of not being aggressive. And that's what you're going to get. You need to have a bunch of badasses. And I'm not saying our offensive linemen aren't badasses. I'm saying that the mentality and the way that we go about our business doesn't seem to follow the way that I would prefer we do it. And we just saw firsthand how effective that can be against a good defense. Let's see. Geno almost threw another pick six. Our offense is not rewarding the defense the last couple games for basically anything they do. Our defense deserves better than what our offense has been giving them. This is fun. This is fun. This was shared by Bob Condata on Twitter, X. B Condata, Condotta. He posted this, I guess it was about halftime. The Ravens, about half, or no, maybe this was at the end of the third. At the end of the third, we had 4 first downs. One of them was from a rushing first down, and 3 of them were from passing first downs. The Ravens had 19 first downs. 12 of them were from rushing, and 7 of them were passing first downs. But yeah, the ratio was we had 4 and they had 19 by the end of the third. Yeah, the 329 to 94 edge in total offense. And again, 53 total plays by the end of the third quarter for the Ravens. We had 32. They kicked our ass. They'd only rushed 27 times by the end of the third. That's pretty impressive. Yards per pass. For us, it was 3.2. For them, it was 6.3. Typically 9 is elite, so it wasn't like they were just throwing explosives on us. They were just running the fuck out of the ball. Another thing, I think this is what led to that 30-yard touchdown. Remember when I was talking about Adams and those shoelace tackles? And I thought that might make an impact on this game. We had the Ravens. It was like 3rd and 28. And Andrews catches the ball halfway. And Adams is right there to stop him. And you know what he does instead of wrapping up? He goes for the shoelaces. He didn't need to do it rapidly. He had time. He goes for this man's shoelaces. And he just tiptoes out of Adams' fingers. And then rumbles down for a first down. Or close to it. Because it might have been second down. And then it was 1 yard left. And then it was enough for them to get in there for a touchdown and get us to 30 yards. Oh, they run on 4th and short. And it was because they had been running so much. Like I said, if you can run for 3 yards no matter what, wouldn't you run on 4th down? So if we had just stopped them, if Adams had just gotten in the way, either get in the way or tackle instead of going for the shoelaces, which he keeps missing this year, then they probably would have had to punt right there or kick a field goal. It's just one of those things that kind of drives me crazy. Save your fingers. I don't care about your labrums. Fuck your labrums. Fuck them. At least get in the way. Let your boys come in and help you tackle him. You just cost us an advantage in the game. This Ravens team is going to the AFC Championship game. No doubts about it. They're going to the championship game. So Peters and Forsyth kept cycling out this game. We had this conversation about rotating. The Geno kept getting his passes batted this game because Clowney was just teeing off on Forsyth and Peters because they were just we don't know who can beat him. And it started off with Forsyth was the starter, but then Peters kept kicking Clowney kept kicking Forsyth's ass. So what do you do, right? What do you do? They just kind of kept him in there until Clowney batted down a 3rd down pass. And what happened was Forsyth kind of kept his hands in there while Clowney was just waving. What have I talked to you about? If you see a man's ribs, punch him in the ribs. You're not supposed to put your hands up as a defensive lineman in front of my quarterback. And Forsyth did not have the gonads to attack a defensive lineman. You're supposed to attack. Always be on the attack. And pass blocking is so passive for our offense that he didn't even comprehend in the play that, hey, this defensive lineman that's been attacking me all day, his obliques are exposed. I should punch him in the ribs. He didn't do it. He was right there. You have a perfect advantage right there. And if you did that, he'd probably drop his hands because, ow, my ribs, and then not block Geno. Or maybe it would teach the rest of those defenders not to put their hands up, and Geno wouldn't have had, 3 passes defensed by the defensive line. It's not acceptable. So then immediately after that, he gets replaced by Jason Peters, who then has a poor drive, who then immediately gets replaced by Forsyth, who gets teed off on, and it's back-to-back sacks. And so it's not working out for either of them because Forsyth cannot be aggressive enough, and it's obvious that Peters is old. It's obvious that Peters is 41 years old, and is not prepared to play against a defense that's this good. He's not playing atrocious, but he's not prepared to play against a team that's this good. There was some plays where he created a great pocket, like the I think he was in on the play with DK, and Forsythe did play some. He did have some good snaps, so that they did go out there and battle. But it was obvious that, like, especially with Forsythe, like my two arguments is, one, Forsythe needs to get the right mentality, and I think that's coaching, and then two, Peters is old, and he played like an old man, but he played like an old man that knows what he's doing, but he's still old. So you get what you get. I think also Geno didn't help. And I described that earlier with his stepping. If a play is like music and it is 1/7 time, music is time signature based. So typically music that you hear on the radio is 4/4 based. So you have 4 notes, 1, 2, 3, 4, and then it's in 4 structures, 1, 2, 3, 4, right? And then it's a nice rhythmic pattern. So you get, in football, you get the 7 steps, and you get 4 plays. I'm very proud of what I just did. You get 7 steps. You don't necessarily get to use them all, right? But ideally, the pattern would be for one play, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 for passing, right? But if you're not following a foot pattern in a West Coast offense properly, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, throw. What did I just do there? Well, the offensive line doesn't know what's going on because they have their own assignments and that are based off of the 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 time signature. So does the tight end. So does the wide receivers. Ironically, so does the defense. So there can be little delays and stuff that are assigned within a play, and that's up to the weekly assignments that were practiced through walkthroughs of the week. But what I did see with Geno on a couple plays is he was so pressured that on plays when there was a pocket, his time signature of his footwork was not within rhythm. And that's a concern for me because that will lead to interceptions. And another thing is he seems to lose it after his 5th step. And when you play a good defense, that means that they're locking down your second read. And your third read is either your check or it's your explosive down the field. Probably both, right? Your 4th read would be a check. So you'd be like, okay, I have my first read, which is like probably a slant or something, or it's probably like I'm going to check to see the release of a post, right? That's probably my first read as well. And so if that doesn't work, then I'm going to see on the 5th step if the slant is open and hit the slant. And if that's not there on the 7th step, I'm going to hit the deep dig or check to see if the flat's open, right? So that could be a progression. And so if his timing is off even a little bit, by that 7th step, the dig will be late. As in he will miss the opening in the dig, and now the middle linebacker is happily in the spot where the dig is in this hypothetical situation. And so I found that after the 5th step, he's looking for it, and then it's almost like, okay, now where's my 3rd read? He's getting lost. And I don't know if that's a week-to-week thing, because I haven't been looking for it until this game specifically. So, but that's what was happening in this game is after the 5th step, he was getting lost. And that's just, that throws off everything. And that throws off everything with the running game too. And we just didn't get enough running attempts with Walker and friends to even see them really have a chance at establishing any timing with their feet. That's kind of all I really have at this point as far as that game goes. Dixon had another really good game. There was 8. I do recommend you check out Seahawks Man to Man by Christopher Kidd and Michael Sean Dugar from The Athletic. They do Seahawks reporting. They have a never kick belief, specifically never punt the ball. And we were at like the 50. And there is some logic to it. But it was like 4th and 8 or something. And we punted the ball, and we ended up setting up the Ravens on like their own 2. And then we almost got a safety, which ended up putting the Ravens like within inches. And so they had to punt. And I think that's what led us to getting our only field goal. So, I mean, never punt. I don't like turning over the ball either. It's a turnover in my mind. I say manage the field. Always manage the field. It's like how I say manage the hash marks. Punting is also about managing the hash marks. That's why sometimes when you punt, you want to decide, do I want to punt to the left side or do I want to punt to the right side? And how far do I want to punt? Because if they want to start a play on the right hash mark or the left hash mark, I want to make sure that they don't have an opportunity to field it to a certain hash mark. If a team even cares about that, right? A team like the Ravens would care about that. So the fact that we got them that far in is awesome. And again, shout out to the Ravens. Just a complete fucking squad. Bunch of running backs. Great philosophy on how to run the ball. Dedicated to it. And why to run the ball. Because teams will just run the ball. There was... It's driven me crazy with Pete Carroll, actually. I've always disagreed with his philosophy of running the ball. He just kind of does it. And he's like, it'll work out. And maybe I need to have a conversation with him and see if he has a more of a reason. But it often feels like we just need to make sure that we get our numbers. You know, it's like he used to say we need to follow the rule of 50, but he never seemed to understood why the rule of 50 was a thing. He used to just kind of say it. And he's like, yeah, we got to make sure to run the ball. But he doesn't seem to have like a method behind the madness. And it was most prevalent years ago during that, cover your ears, Evan, if you're listening, during that Cowboys game, playoff game, where Chris Carson, I love the idea that we were running the ball, but the way we ran the ball was so dumb. It was so dumb. He kept running against the numbers. So, yes, run into a loaded box. Show them that you mean business. But as I've said, if you're running hash mark right, and the strong side is on the right side, and they're loaded right, you have no room to run. And they'd be like, okay, so we're going to run the ball right into the strength of the near side, or of the strong side, where there's no room to run the ball. And so when there's no room for the offensive line to create a lane, you know, to get the weapon up there to create an opportunity, there's no opportunity to get the weapon there, and there's no opportunity for the weapon to make a play. And that's what happened the entire Cowboys game, is it was just like running into a brick wall on purpose without reason. At that situation, run weak, knowing that they're going to know you're either going to try to run into it or run weak, because you're going to get a numbers opportunity. set up the advantage to let your running back enter the lane and then beat the guy. And then by doing that, then Russell's play action will work. But then they wouldn't do it. And it just, these are old wounds. These are old wounds. I just sat there so mad. And I wasn't angry that they were calling running plays. I sat there the entire Cowboys game just like, why would you call that running play? That running play didn't make any sense. It drove me up a wall. How long have I been going? I think I'm good for this. Those are my thoughts. I could probably find some stats and stuff if I really wanted. I appreciate you all for showing up. There's a bunch of other great Seahawks streams and things like that that I recommend you check out. Like and subscribe. I'd appreciate that. And without further ado, let's do further. Go Hawks.